welcome. It's Richard Wade, just coming at you live today on Monday at the beginning of Farm Safety Week in July 2024. And I just want to go through a few points relating to farm health and safety. Now, in particular, this is super relevant this week. It's Farm Safety Week 2024. And that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. To me, it means business as usual. Safety shouldn't be in this particular week every year. What we need to be doing is developing a safety culture within our workforce and amongst our workers so that we're safe every day of every week throughout the year. And that's really, really critical. Of other specific importance is a program I watched on the telly last night. So I watched the Countryfile last night, and it was dedicated to obviously countryside stuff. And there was a section on farm health and safety. And I want to pick up on a few of the points that were discussed during that program, which was an excellent program, by the way, on BBC, and it's available now on the iPlayer. And I want to pick up on a few of the points that were talked about during that that discussion last night on the show. There were some really sad bits, but unfortunately, as we're going to explain in a moment, the sad bits predominantly relating to people being killed and injured and made sick through their work in the agricultural sector. That's not going to change anytime soon, and I'll explain the reasons for that. However, there's a number of key issues around farm health and safety at the moment. One in particular, I'm going to go into some detail, and that's the health and safety executive decision to stop ad hoc and random unannounced farm health and safety checks and inspections. But that shouldn't affect you. Even if you work in farming, agriculture, or landed estate, the fact that the regulators aren't coming around to tell you what you need to be doing to look after you and your family and your workers and your contractors and your visitors, it should have no bearing on your life and your operations. You need to be operating safely at all times. If you're out there working, it needs to be safely, and you need to be very confident that everybody working for you is safe as well. So without further ado, let me move into my presentation proper. I'll just get myself out of screen for a moment. I want to talk to you about farm health and safety, and particularly during Farm Safety Week of 2024. So welcome to you all, wherever you may be viewing in from. I've got a few people watching live now on the YouTube channel. Thanks for joining in. And indeed, if you watch later on, by all means, leave comments, like, share, and engage with the content, or indeed contact me directly if you so wish. And my details are on the screen now at the bottom right hand side at rascs.co.uk, and also my phone number is on the last slide that you'll see. So farm safety training then, what's it all about, and why are we talking about it now? The importance will become very clear shortly, but let's look at what was discussed last night. So this is the resume, if you like, the snapshot of the BBC's programme last night or Sunday evening about farm health and safety. And some of the key points that they were making, you can see in those boxes quite clearly in front of you now. And starting on the left-hand side, we've got the fact that the health and safety executive have a much reduced staff count nowadays than compared to 5 and 10 years ago. And it's significant. And of course, that means that they have to prioritize very carefully those limited resources. And one of the ex-health and safety executive inspectors from last night's program, and I really do urge you to go and watch it, it was fantastic. One of the ex-inspectors was very clear. And whilst on the one hand, you might think, so we've now got a reduced numbers of inspectors. Well, that's going to have an impact, and it does. What it means, though, is the HSE have to very, very carefully allocate the resources that they do have available to them. And that leads us on to the second point. Why would the regulator decide to stop doing spot checks and ad hoc drop-in inspections on farms and agricultural related businesses when it's the one that kills the most people at work? And it's all down to that allocation and sensible distribution of resources. the guy was very clear when he came on last night, and he said, look, I'm an ex-HSE inspector. So if I go to a farm and I find things wrong and I advise the owners, or indeed enforce and perhaps prosecute, the impact might be on 4 or 5 people. So that's that use of the HSE inspector's time on that particular day, impacting maybe 4 or 5 people. His argument was, well, if the same time and resource is allocated to a large multi-site manufacturing environment, my health and safety advice, possible enforcement and interaction might impact the lives of 400 people. So it was about the allocation of resources, and I'm not making a view either way. My aim here, I have no political views to make on my channels in any way, shape or form. I purely deal with the facts, and the fact of life is there are less HSE inspectors available. That has resulted in this particular sector, in agriculture, forestry and fishing, in a reduced number of spot checks. And that's just the way life is. And we can have opinions left, right, or in the middle. It matters not. That's what we're dealing with. So let's deal with facts only. And on the right-hand side of that slide, sadly, one thing that we can state, and this really is a shame, that the numbers of deaths in this sector, I'm going to show you them in a moment, the number of deaths in this sector don't really change that much year on, year out. There was a comment made by the NFU representative last night on the program on Countryfile, stating that over the last 40 years, and it's true in what he says, over the last 40 years, there's not really been that much change in the attrition rate in this sector. Deaths and illnesses and people being made sick through their work activities hasn't really changed that much for a number of factors, and that's not really the aim of this discussion today. So for today's purpose, less HSE resources available, no more ad hoc farm inspections, and sadly the numbers of death hasn't really changed. There's impacts across the board, obviously, to the working lives of farmers, landed estate owners, and people working in the fields and the agricultural sector. We know what's going to happen over the next year. I can almost predict the types and numbers of deaths that's going to occur. HSE stats recently released 34 deaths in the last reporting period. So we're now in July 2024. So in the last year, 34 deaths in the sector. Hasn't really changed much over the last 10 years, certainly not in the last 5 years. It's going to fluctuate around 27 to 30, depending on what's going on. Dropped a little bit during the COVID period. But, you know, on the whole, we could quite easily state, based on fact, that next year there'll be around about 30 people killed in the sector. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that's the important thing I want to stress today, that we can actually do something about it. Here's a snapshot of the numbers of deaths occurring in the last year. Let's move that one out of the way. So, you know, if you look on the left-hand side from 2004 to 2005, all the way up to current date. So the bottom lines, manufacturing and construction, you can see compared to the agricultural sector, this is deaths per 100,000 workers. You can see the comparison there. Agriculture is way, way up there. And whilst we see dips and fluctuations, it's pretty constant and it's pretty high, and the numbers are quite frightening. And that really hasn't changed, you know, year on, year out over the last, as I say, last 5 to 10 years. Let's have a quick look, if we may, at the common causes of these deaths and injuries and illnesses. I've not put any numbers on these, but on the graph, on the pie graph on the left-hand side of the screen there, you can see it could be one of two things. It could be the story of what's happened, and that would be true. And it could also be the story of what we predict is going to happen next year, 24, 25. And there's a very, very high possibility it's going to be true as well, because year on year, those common occurrences happen on our farms and our landed estates and our rural environments. So you'll see that starting in the blue sector segment there on the top left, contact with moving machinery, and then we'll just quickly work our way around. Trapped by things collapsing, drowning or asphyxiation, whether that's in lagoons or slurry pits, being hit by objects, cattle. There was a lot of cattle accidents and deaths in the last reporting period, people falling from heights and people being hit by moving vehicles. Those are all of the inherent hazards within our sector. And sadly, the story doesn't change, year in, year out. That's what's killing, injuring, and making people sick from our work activities. But we can do something about it. It doesn't have to actually be that way. And what I'd like to do, let me bring up the next slide. I'll make that bigger and we'll work our way around. This is a snapshot of what you ought to be doing in your business now. So this is what the law says you have to do to keep you, your family, and your business, and anyone who interacts with your undertakings safe and as risk-free as possible. You'll notice I've circled training on the top right-hand corner there where it says employee training. I'm going to focus in on that on the next slide or two. But for now, this is what the law says you need to do. On the left at the top, you need to have an insurance policy. So you must have, to operate a business in the United Kingdom, you must have employer's liability insurance. And it's very good common sense and practice and business sense to have public liability insurance and product liability and lots of other insurance policies directly relevant to our sector, farming, landed estates and agriculture. So you need to get a good broker. Don't go and buy an off-the-shelf policy. It's not a one-size-fits-all, this insurance game. I've worked for many, many years in risk management within insurance broker companies since literally 1997. So you need a good broker who can make a bespoke package for you to incorporate things like business interruption and your normal fire and your flood and your downtime, business continuity, but then to consider the other things alongside your fleet policy, things like insuring yourself against people fly tipping on your land and cleanup costs. And there's all sorts to consider. So do get yourself a good broker. Work your way around this slide. We need to look at cost assessments. Forget training for a moment. We need to do general risk assessments. We need to cover fire, machinery, young persons, workplace transport. The list goes on and on and on. So this health and safety and risk management business is quite wide and very, very broad in its sort of concept. So you need specialist advice. You can do it yourself if you're competent and qualified to do so. And there's a load of information available to you on the Health and Safety Executive website relating to risk assessments and policies, and it gives you great guidance, and I highly recommend that website to you. It's gone through a total refresh lately. It looks slick, it's easily navigable, and you can quickly find what you need to find. Also, I would urge you to set up alerts. There's loads of alerts that you can set up. So if you want regular updates on farming, agriculture, chemicals, pesticides, whatever it might be, set your alert, give them your email address, and you'll be updated as and when things are updated or renewed or something new comes out. So that's risk assessment. Health and safety policy. If you've got more than 5 people, you need a policy. You see on the bottom left a thing called LOLA there, lifting operations, lifting equipment regulations, applicable, I would guess, to the vast majority, if not all, farms and agricultural related businesses. So if you're using JCBs, forklift trucks, high abs, any kind of plant or equipment or vehicles that lift or carry or move things, then you become subject to the requirements of LOLA. And in a nutshell, that means they must be having a statutory examination by a competent person, normally related to your insurance company, on an annual basis. And if it's lifting people like man cages and that kind of stuff, then you need to have it done every 6 months. But that's for another day. So making sure our kit and equipment's right. And then audits and inspections are really, really important. Not so much a legal requirement, but a really good business practice to get into. So you need to know where you are relating to safety. You need to know your level of compliance. And so by having someone come in and do an audit or an inspection on you, you'll get a snapshot in time of this is where you are. And of course, if there are any gaps, any legal compliance gaps, you can develop an action plan to plug those. So let's focus, if we may, on this training for a moment. So this is really, really important. So if we go back, let me bring myself back in just for a moment. If we go back to all of the accidents and incidents, all on the pie chart, cattle, vehicles, things collapsing, being hit by moving vehicles, whatever it might be, those are the things that are going to kill, injure, and make you and your family and your workers and your visitors sick through work activity. But to an extent, they are entirely preventable. With a little bit of forethought and a little bit of planning, we can prevent them all. And the last slide that I just put on was very much procedural. So the law says this and the law says that, and that's fine. We have to have a standard. The law is the common denominator. Everybody must comply with the law, but we can do better than that. The law is the lowest level that's acceptable within the UK health and safety legislation. So we can do better than that. And we can move into this like best practice arena. We can be better than what the minimum requirement is. So all of those things that we looked at were killing and injuring and making people sick. And all of the things on the last slide were the procedural things that go towards preventing those. So we got policies and we got procedures and risk assessments. We got insurance for when it goes wrong. We've got statutory inspections for our equipment. There's all brilliant things that we have to be doing. But do they stop the worker making the mistake that leads to the death? Do they impact directly at the cold face where it really, really matters? And the answer is yes, they do, to a very small extent. Depends on you, the business owner. How much have you told your staff? How much have you informed them, instructed them, and briefed them about these policies and procedures and risk assessments and cost assessments? People are too busy getting on with the day-to-day business of being busy, getting on with working out in the fields and producing food and doing whatever else they're doing as part of their day-to-day farming and agricultural related activity. So the policies and the procedures and all that gets lost a little bit with the end user, the worker. So what you need to do, and I would strongly urge you to consider this now during Farm Safety Week and every week from today, consider informing and instructing the end user, the person who's going to have the accident, the person who's going to use the kit without the PTO protection on, without the guard, the person who's going to use the electrical system, the person who's going to do the combining, the person who's going to jump on a tractor or a quad bike or a JCB or a forklift truck, someone who's going to interact with fertilizers and pesticides and chemicals and poisons. They're the people that's going to get injured, and they're the people who, if things go wrong, are really going to hurt your business, because sick, injured, and ill people are no good to you as a business. You've got to replace them, and then you're going to have all the interactions with the health and safety executive, because although we've been saying that they're understaffed and they're under-resourced and they're not doing farm inspections anymore, what I can tell you, you have an accident that's bad and hits their radar, or you have someone die on your property, or suffer from an occupational disease that is reported via the medical services to the HSC, you're going to see them then. They're going to be all over you and investigating and checking all your documents and your training. So now's the time to get it right. In the cool light of day, where things are calm, there's no stress and no hassle other than the normal work stuff. Let's get it right now. So do the hard yards now, and life gets a lot easier. So the people that we want to train and protect are your workers and your visitors and your contractors. And it's quite straightforward. We don't want them to be health and safety experts. We don't want to teach them all about risk assessments and becoming safety gurus. We want to tell them what they need to do to look after themselves and other people who come into their contact, who they interact with, or other people whose who could be injured by your workers' actions. So let's train our workforce. Let's train them so that they know all about the dangers that we've recently spoken about. Let's bring up our little slideshow and just move forward a little bit. So what can we do then? What can we do for our workers to protect them and keep them safe at work? So on the one hand, we've just been saying people are at risk from vehicles, fires, electricity, machinery, power takeoffs, cattle, falls, manual handling, slips, trips, asphyxiation. The list goes on and on and on. So all you need to do to exercise good business sense and good due diligence and compliance with the law is look at your people and decide what training they require. Now, we've done something for you that will assist you in this endeavor. What you're looking at there is the graphic on the left-hand side for the Farm Health and Safety Training course. So I will bring that back up in a moment, but I want to bring myself into screen for now. So I personally developed that course a couple of years ago, and it's gone through a number of sort of evolutions, and it's a good course. What we did is we said, right, let's put ourselves in the seat. Let's imagine we are the farm worker. What do we want to know in a bite-sized, easy to digest format? What do I want to know that's going to keep me safe at work, protect my employer, protect the business, and not result in injury or death or sickness? And what we did is we looked at all of those key causation factors that we've talked about on the pie chart a moment ago, and we've broken them down into bite-sized chunks. And inside the course, the student logs on and works their way through a series of chapters, very much in this format where I talk to the student almost on a one-to-one basis, if you like. And we go through the dangers and we talk about what could go wrong and what has gone wrong. So we include lots of case studies and information and experience that we've gathered over the years. We give and bring that to the table so others can benefit from our experience and knowledge within the sector, which is extensive. Bite-sized chunks, video over presentations, lots of sort of downloads available. And basically, at the end of the day, once the student gets to the end of the course, they're in a position where they kind of go, oh, I get it. It's common sense, really, and it is. But we need to remind people on a regular basis about common sense. We get tied up in our day-to-day activities, and once we're set on a certain path, if I've been doing combining for 20 years, I kind of do it without thinking. If I'm doing the slurry, I kind of do it without thinking, and I kind of adapt the habit that I've learned over the years. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be the right way. It could be the wrong way, and I've just been lucky so far. And next week could be a horrendous accident or incident. Someone could get injured or killed. So it's a game of refreshing people's memory, bringing people up to date with current knowledge, current guidance, current law. Although we talk about the law, we don't harp on about it. The coalface worker, the person working on the field and the land, whilst the law is important and relevant, it's not so much on their radar. They're more interested in, well, what boots do I wear? What goggles do I wear? How do I put the PTO guard on? How do I avoid overhead cables? All of those common sense, practical things on a day-by-day basis that keep me and my work colleagues safe. So that's what that training course is all about. It's a short, punchy course. It's got about 6 or 7 chapters. And one of the key things that's worth noting about our safety course, and this is our point of difference, it makes it unique in the marketplace. Not only is it exceptionally well priced, it's a very, very competitively priced for the quality of the product. We also have inside of our farm and our course a 3D interactive farm. So we've actually mapped out a real farm using some cool technology. And as you work your way through the course, you get to chapter 7, I think it is, and you click a button and you go in the farm, and you can walk around with the sheep and go in the workshop and you kind of go on like a hazard spotting journey. By way of example, it's very, very similar, and the same technology that Google use to have Google Street View, where you can walk down streets and look in people's windows and cars and things like that. Well, we've got the same, but you can look in sheep pens and storage areas and all the farmyard areas, on a hazard spotting exercise. And then at the end of the course, once you've done the very brief knowledge check, a little mini test to make sure you've assimilated all of the knowledge, upon completion, you automatically get a certificate emailed to your inbox in a PDF form with our gratitude and thanks for having sat the course. What you see there in front of you is the course sort of graphic. Is fully online, it's fully interactive. It's a good course. I would say that, wouldn't I? But it is. It's absolutely fantastic. And you can see a lot of feedback on the landing page from people who've sat this course literally from around the world. We've had students from Singapore, New Zealand, Africa, Nigeria, all over the world. And we've listened carefully when people have made recommendations on how we can improve the course, and we encourage feedback. We've taken that on board, and we've updated the course and incorporated it. For Farm Safety Week, you can see it flashing across the bottom of your screen at the moment. There's a discount on, so simply go to either rascs.co.uk and click Farm Safety Training, or scan one of those QR codes. I'll bring that up a little bit bigger just now so you can have a quick scan if you so wish on your handheld device. So go to the website, rascs.co.uk, scan on one of those buttons there that you see, and you can go to one of two training courses. On the left-hand side is the 3D Farm Managers course. So that's for managers and supervisors. And on the right-hand side, Farm Workers. The Farm Workers is a very short, punchy course aimed at the farm worker, and it says this is how you work safely. Follow these guidances and you'll be safe. On the left-hand side, the Farm Managers course is a little bit more in-depth, where we talk about how the law applies, and we talk a bit about risk assessments, not in any major detail, but we make you aware of what you should be doing. At the end of the course, a little check, and away you go on with loads of knowledge and hopefully a fresh, invigorated approach to farm health and safety. So there we go. So that's me. That's Richard Wade from Risk and Safety Compliance Services. I'm an agriculture and landed estate and large visitor attraction health and safety stroke risk management advisor. I've been working in this sector for best part of 30 years now, and all of my knowledge and experience is brought into our training environment. My telephone number is there. If you wanted to contact me directly, then I would welcome a call from you. 01 in the UK, +44 0191 908 0257. That will get you straight onto my telephone. If you have any questions or comments, or indeed if you would like to consider working with us on a partnership arrangement, if you work or advise anybody in farming, landed estates, or the agricultural sector who you think might benefit from our training courses in farm health and safety, or our sister course in rural crime prevention, then do reach out and let's discuss working together on a shared revenue basis. There we go. So that's Farm Safety Week 2024 kicking off. Don't just be safe for Farm Safety Week 2024 though. Let's be safe all the time. It's really straightforward. It normally just involves a well-informed and well-briefed and disciplined workforce. Tell them what could go wrong. Tell them how it can impact them and their family and their loved ones and the wider community. That's really important. When you go and watch, hopefully, the program from last night, it's really sad. People's children dying on farms every single year. The impact is massive. It's lifelong, life-changing impact. An accident on a farm affects people's lives in ways that are unimaginable. And I hope we never have to experience it, and I hope you never have to experience it either. So let's go out there, let's spread the safety message, let's train our staff, let's brief them, let's supervise them, let's not accept any standard other than the best. Work towards best practice. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I want to say thank you so much. If you've listened all the way, thank you. If you've dropped in and out, thank you as well. Take good care.